Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of Podiatry Marketing. With me, as usual, is my co-host, Big Jim Mack. So, Jim, how you doing today?
Doing well, Tyson. Doing well. Enjoying 2024. It's a good year. The first month of the year always gets me hyped up and excited. So no, things are going well here in Montreal.
I do like a new year. It's funny how people will just start, like, oh yeah, I need that new year to a clean slate, so I can just settle my goals. But I always think you can really do that any time of the year. You don't need to wait till the beginning of the year to do it. But I must admit, I do like just that it's almost like a whole refresh for the year. It's like everything that's happened in the past is the past. My future is looking bright.
Well, here in Canada, right, the November, December, the days are getting much shorter, and now we're on the other side of where days are starting to get a bit longer. And I like as much as I enjoy the snow and the cold, I like longer, sunnier days. So yeah, the sunshine is very welcome.
Yeah, no, it's what I like here at the moment. Middle of summer, it's like 5:30 in the morning, sun is up, and 7 o'clock at night, you can still be outside, and it's great. 13, 14 hour days of sunlight. Bring it on. And the pool's nice, the water's fantastic. So anyhow, excuse me, I'll edit that out. So what are we talking about today? What is today's subject?
Yeah, so we've kind of talked about this subject in different podcasts in the past, but never really had a like kind of a step-by-step guide about how to do it. But today we're going to be talking about a step-by-step guide to plan a podiatry clinic photo shoot. We've talked a lot about the
Okay.
importance of photos, a lot of the importance of images to Google and to other places, but we haven't really told people what we think is a good way to go about and approach this opportunity to get, real authentic photos of them treating their ideal patients.
Okay. So where would you start with this if you were taking people through the steps? So obviously you've got a guide that you're going
Yeah,
to take everybody through.
for sure. So I think that, like I talked about, creating a successful, authentic photo shoot really involves kind of some careful planning to start off with. It's not something where you just want to call up a buddy or a family member who has a camera. They just come in and start taking pictures of your empty clinic. You really need to make sure you're
Yeah.
planning it. You know how to hire the right photographer, ideally somebody professional that's done more than one of these in the past. And then also you want to know kind of what are the key images you need to capture during the shoot. So the first real step is to know what your goals are and kind of who your audience is, right? So obviously, ideally, these photos are being taken not just for you, but to appeal to a specific ideal patient, to the people you want to treat, to the demographic in your local area, and really maybe it's for to show the professionalism to other referrers, to other healthcare professionals in the local area. It's in order to kind of build trust and a reputation for yourself. So you kind of have to decide what you want to achieve with these photos. You're gonna what treatments do you want to showcase? What type of care do you provide that you want to really highlight? If you need to highlight kind of what is it like for the patient experience, right? So what does the office look like? What does the front of your office look like? What is kind of their career, the not the career, but the patient journey they're going to walk through when they go from being online on your website into your practice. There's ways of taking photos to really help them get familiar with your practice and with your staff and with you to make sure they're feeling very familiar and very comfortable once they get into a real life appointment situation.
So I'll go back a step though, that you said have a professional photographer. And if they've done similar clinics to yourself, they might have an idea of some of the shots that you probably should have.
Yep, yep.
But the other part too is we're talking about doing a professional photo shoot here, not something where all of a sudden you just happen to have an exceptionally interesting case that you want to take a photo of, which is why I always say to people, you should always have a good camera handy, just in case something cool turns up. But I do agree that you said, so would you suggest people go back through, say, the last, say, 100 new patients that came in and have a look at what they actually came in with? And maybe they'll give them a guideline of some of the things that they should be taking photographs of, because those new patients coming are obviously an idea of what people are looking for.
I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. I think it would start with what do you want to treat? Like you could have had,
Yeah. Oh,
50
yeah. Okay.
like a clip and chips, but like you're starting your practice and that's not what you want to be known for. I think you need to
Oh,
start
no.
with
Well,
what you
we
want.
know that. We all know that, Jim.
But I think
We know that. No. Yeah.
But a lot of these things, yeah, they seem pretty, intuitive, right? Oh yeah, just of course I would take pictures of I want to do orthotics, then I would take pictures of me doing orthotics. But you'd be surprised if you don't have that written down, or if you don't have that communicated well to the photographer, that these are the things that you want to do. So you really need to get into that planning process, know what you want to do, know what type of patient you want to treat. And then, I think it makes sense to look through those 50 or 100 of your last patients to see what you did. So maybe there is
Mm,
some stuff that you can highlight along the way. But I think there you bring up a good point as well. You know, having a good camera on hand could be helpful for some other non-photo shoot photos. If you're before and afters with surgery, some other aspects that you may want to highlight on your website or other internet properties potentially. But for right now, I'm really more focused on how do you get those really professional looking images for your website, your social channels, and other places to make sure that you're highlighting your expertise and really looking professional to not only your patients, but also to other healthcare providers in your local area that maybe want to refer patients to you now that they see how good of a clinic you have and the type of modalities and treatments you provide patients that come in.
yeah, and I think that's where the advantage of the professional photographer is too, because they will know, yeah, they'll do multiple angles and they'll be able to see what actually looks best. When you're doing it yourself, even when I've done presentations and I might hand my camera to somebody and say, hey, can you get some photos for me? And they go, yeah, yeah, not a problem. And I try to direct them on, I want this photo here and I want it from this angle because this is what I want to use it for.
No, for
And you can almost guarantee I can take really good photos of other people doing the talk, but nobody gets one where, because, and they're not professionals. Whereas professional, if you say, this is what I'm after, they will probably nail those shots a lot more.
No, you bring up that's exactly what I'm trying to get at here is that you want to look for professional photographer with healthcare experience, right? You don't want, I mean, if there's someone that's younger that's only done a couple and maybe you're just starting and you need a better deal, maybe it's fine to go with. But there's someone that works with that local hospital system or other clinics in the local area. Some of your friends and colleagues in other specialties probably have had a photo shoot in the past. So you can get some different types of referrals, but you can look, online. Like I said, you can ask the hospital who they use, other friends, but kind of in professional roles. But you really want to have that person vetted, right? Because you want to see their kind of portfolio. What are some
Yeah.
examples of photos they've taken in the past? Do they have those different angles? Or are they using different lenses to try to capture things? Because if everything is a close up of the foot and you, that websites can be large and maybe need a wide angle view. So you want to make sure that you don't have to worry about those specifics, that the photographer has a portfolio that really shows that they know what they're doing. And then once you do that, you can start kind of maybe interviewing one or two people or maybe three people that you think would be a good fit. See whether you want to work with this person or not. Obviously, personalities, the way they work, pricing, different things come into to account there. But interviewing with some few folks to see what's a good fit for you and your practice, and then looking into see what are the costs for the photo shoot, the post image processing, giving you those kind of original files. These days you don't have to have the actual physical photo anymore. It's something they can send you a link to a
Yeah.
Dropbox. But those are the kind of things to think about when you're looking for that professional photographer to work with.
And what sort of money do you reckon people should be like budgeting to actually have a professional photographer?
Yeah, generally, I'd say somewhere between the $500 range to $2,000. That's going to be based on where you're located at. If you're in New York City or San Francisco, it might be on the higher side. And if you're in a smaller, a more rural community, it could be as low as $500. But you don't want to go with a super cheap option like we talked in the past. These are images that
Mm,
you want to do well and look professional in for maybe 5-7 years for that kind of first go. But then you obviously want to update. I've seen clinics and websites that have clearly have photos from 20 years ago, and
yeah.
and you don't, or videos on the website which was like a doctor like 50 pounds ago. And you want to make sure that it's a kind of a gradual smooth transition from the online world to what's reality. So updating these photos every 5 to 7 years is definitely recommended.
When I got the photographer to do my photos for the last website they did, the update, and I said to him, camera hates me. He goes, I am a professional. He said, don't, leave it to me. He takes a few shots and he kept looking at his camera. He's going, oh my God. That's what I guess. You're right. The camera doesn't like you, does it? I said, no, camera hates me. Absolutely hates me, despises me. He said, but leave it with me. And he did. And he eventually took enough photos. He earned his money. He took enough photos to finally get the right thing. Whereas that's the difference between using someone who's not a professional. I reckon they would have just given up on mine. They would have just gone, yeah, no, camera hates you. We'll move on. Do something else. I've thought about getting somebody else for the photos.
No, that's why you hire a professional. I think another point that you brought kind of touched on briefly there is that uh, this isn't like an episode just for those new people coming into practice. People that are in clinic, that have been in practice for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's just as important for those folks to have professional images as well that are updated. Because like we talked about on past podcasts, if you're going to be selling your practice, if you have some new modalities, you have some new ways of treating patients, you need to have those things highlighted on your website, on your social accounts and other places, because if it's, a wart burner from 30 years ago, like,
Yeah.
that people are going to shy away from those types of treatments. But if you can show that you're modern, that you look the same way in real life as you do in your images, that's going to go a long way to building patient trust. So that's a really, really important component.
Yeah, and it's also the quality of the images from 10 years ago. Some of the images that you would have used on your website, some people are using bigger screens now. Sometimes people are using TV sets to actually do the searching. So if your quality, your image wasn't very good 10 years ago compared to an updated photo now, it's obvious. Sometimes old photos are just really, really obvious.
No, it can be for sure. But the
And it's
next
not just the big wide tie that is the giveaway. So what about logistically? Is there certain things that they should be preparing for that way?
Yeah, you really need to prepare some logistics, right? So obviously, what's the location going to be? Ideally, this is going to be inside your clinic and outside of your clinic on a nice sunny day. So there's that logistics of trying to, you can't predict the weather, as Tyson knows well. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you want to, showing you and your clinic with your staff is a great way to kind of build genuine, kind of build trust and really show that you're an authentic caring medical provider, right? So also, when are you going to schedule this, right? What is the date and time? Obviously, you want to cause a minimal disruption of your clinic operations, but do you have a half day admin day on Fridays that it might be able to fit into well, or maybe it's something where you just don't want to do it during the week. You're just going to take off one half day on the weekend to do it. There's different ways to kind of approach the scheduling aspect of it, but those two kind of lead the way. Obviously, props and equipment. So you want to make sure that you have the kind of the necessary medical equipment ready to go and in good condition, so it's highlighted well in these photos. And you want to make sure that you have permission of the people taking part in the photo shoot, right? So
Mm.
either you're gonna select participants. We'll get into this a little bit, but you want to have everyone sign a waiver to make sure that you have a use of these photos, right? If they don't sign a waiver, they could come back later on and say, "Hey, I didn't want you to use that photo of me," and it could be cause for litigation or just bad publicity for you and for your practice.
Yeah, we used to call them the talent. So when you
Exactly.
brought the talent in, we'd have them sign something to say that they were fine with everything. The other part, it's interesting people to realize too, whoever takes the photo owns the photo. So if I had my camera here, Jim, and someone ran past you, picked up my camera, took a photo of that, and then gave the camera back to me, and I take another 1,000 photos, that one photo that you actually picked up the camera and took the photo with, you actually own the rights to that photo, even if it's on my camera. So the photographer technically owns the rights to every one of those photos that they take, which is why you need to get them to make sure they sign them over to you.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just thought it was important. And with the talent too, I say whoever you have in your pictures, and this, don't take this the wrong way, but try the better looking they are, the better.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's not they have to be a supermodel, but they need to look like the type of ideal patient that you actually want in your clinic.
Yeah, that's the next step is really to select those and kind of brief participants in the photo shoot, right? And you need to
Yeah.
choose the staff, like make sure the staff is on board, and then you can decide whether do you want to have actual patients. If you've been in practice for a while and you have these kind of go-to patients who are kind of that ideal patient persona that are trustworthy, that are gonna dress well, present themselves well for the photos. I mean, like you said, they don't have to be supermodels, but they need to take care of themselves. They need to be, wearing clean
Have all their
clothes.
teeth.
Yeah, have all their teeth, all those kinds of things to
Yeah.
make sure that they know the purpose of what the photo shoot's about, and they're willing to be flexible with their time in order to make it happen, right? So, kind of letting them know how to prepare as far as, maybe it's staggered, right? They don't have to be there for the entire thing, but for this 1 hour slot, you're expecting them to be there so they can get those photos taken. So, kind of the arrival times and scheduling these people to be available for the shoot is really, really important when it comes to selecting and briefing your participants in the photo shoot.
Yeah, and I think that, like you said, the timing of when you're going to start, when you're going to finish, and make sure that they're quite flexible with that, because I don't think I've ever done a photo shoot yet or a video that's ever run on time. There's
No.
always there's always interruptions, and because you're usually still doing it during a work day and your business is still actually going, there's phone calls that come through. There's something that happens. So there can be distractions. So they're going to be prepared that they may need to hang around just a little bit longer.
Nope, that's a perfect example. I think it's really important too that, like I said, unless you're just cold starting a clinic, you need to have people in all of your photos. I see too many websites with empty waiting rooms, empty front desk, no staff at front desk, empty treatment rooms. Get away from that if you can. Obviously, if you're brand new to an area, you don't know anybody, and you don't want to hire some fake models or something, that's your call. But just know that seeing something empty, it doesn't feel quite right when we're looking at images. So do your best to fill those treatment rooms, the waiting room, and that front desk office scene, at least for a little period of time, to get those photos to look more genuine and authentic.
Yeah, especially empty rooms. I don't think there's anything worse than you see a beautiful reception area and it's just empty. Whereas they could have a receptionist there, the podiatrist standing there, and a patient at the counter. And even if no one's really looking at the camera, it just looks like it's a real photograph of what's actually happening in the waiting room. I think always looks better. I'm not quite sure what the rules are now, but I know a while back, if you had certain people in photographs doing things, especially here in Australia, that the rules were they had to actually be real patients.
Okay.
You couldn't have actors doing it. I'm not quite sure about the rule. I know when it came to TV commercials, it had to be that if you were saying something medically about this particular thing, there had to be a patient.
Okay.
They had to actually be real. So I'm not sure if that's true or not
I don't think that's a
anymore.
rule in the US or in Canada that I'm aware of, but if it is, someone can let us know. But
No,
I've
no,
heard that
I just
before.
recall doing a commercial once, and it had to get had to get passed before it could go to air. And when and I kept complaining, saying, "Oh, no wonder people use radio and not TV if you're going to go through all this rubbish." But it was just making sure that you didn't have a fake person there, or if you did, you had to say had underneath this person is an actor.
No, that totally makes sense.
So what's next? So what about setting up the shoot? Like getting prepared or getting everything lined up the right way.
Yeah, so I'd say like the next couple steps are kind of intermingled, and this is kind of like, you've done the planning beforehand, probably with the photographer as far as setting up the shot list and kind of where those key areas are you're going to take photos at in the lead up. So then I would say it's hands off from you. You need to obviously make sure that they're going through that agreed list of shots and angles and those things, but leave it in the hands of the professional, right? You're hiring this photographer to kind of be the photographer to guide participants, yourself. They'll be the ones that take care of if you're a type A person and you're getting too stressed out about stuff, just back off and let the photographer do his job. If you're stressed out and freaking out that someone's, I don't know, to just let them do their job and let them kind of guide the participants through the photo shoot. That's the most important thing. They're gonna capture that mix of different shots and different angles. For some reason, if usually they're gonna mark things off a list, right? Just make sure they're catching all those things. But just, yeah, let kind of rely on that professional. And, obviously they need some help, they'll reach out to you, but just kind of work in concert with them and let them take the lead.
Yeah, and a professional too, they will probably have a meeting with you way ahead of time to know what it is you're after, an idea of the shots that you want to do. They may even come out and scope the room and everything beforehand. So they'll know whether they need to bring additional lighting or whether the natural light is going to be fantastic. I know we had certain consultation rooms that had beautiful natural light. We had other ones that had no natural light. So if we we're going to use both rooms, then the photographer they would be prepared for this. Lighting in this room, don't need lighting in the other room.
Now that makes a lot of sense. I think, yeah, but just like letting them decide, where things should be at. Like I said, either they're going to do probably a walkthrough, or you're going to have a very clear understanding before the photo shoot even starts exactly what's going to happen. And once that photo shoot ends, they're going to tear down. They're going to walk out of the clinic, and they're going to spend some time doing some post production and post processing of these images. So once they, maybe a week or two later, once they're done processing the images, they're going to do things like make sure the lighting is correct. They're going to select the best shots, kind of make sure that the angles and those things are as good as they can be. They're going to send you kind of maybe some proofs or just the entire photo shoot in a Dropbox image. And you can kind of go through those images. And, if you have questions about them or the angles, or there's, how much has been manipulated, or how much, is there certain photos, um, that you think that should be a little bit different. You obviously stylistically they can kind of change colors a little bit here and there, but obviously, like when you take a look at the photos they've done before, you kind of select them for the reason. So there probably won't be much of that has to be done, but they'll deliver those images to you. And then once you have those images, then it's up to you. If you're working with a marketing consultant or agency, it's able to kind of like start utilizing those images across the different marketing platforms you have, your website, your social media, any kind of physical brochures or collateral you have that you've been waiting on to create with these new images. And it really is a chance to like take these, when you do go through the photo shoot, it's a rare opportunity to really kind of tell those patient stories and really have kind of you can work on some different captions or some if you write for yourself or you write with a marketing consultant, what are the stories you need to tell behind those images. And it's a great
Mm.
opportunity, like I said. Now you have those images, you can kind of get them out there into the world over a gradual period of time.
Yeah, and I just want to go one step too about setting up for the shoot is the people that you have turning up, give them some sort of guidance on what you'd like them to wear as well. Because if you've got quite light colored walls, you don't really want them wearing really light colored clothes that they're going to sort of blend in. They're better to wear something that might be a little bit darker, but also have the appropriate clothing for whatever it is the shoot you're going to be doing.
Yeah, that's where it really comes into like selecting your participants, right? Like, and then giving them clear communication about what to wear and what makes sense for the lighting and, like you said, the colors of the walls. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so once you've got all the photos,
Yeah.
you've done this great photo shoot, the photographer's given them all to you, you've got 400 photos to go through that you, so many different angles of all your equipment, your services, and everything you've done. Then where should they start using these photos?
Yeah, like I mentioned, it's time to kind of hand those off, maybe even to your marketing consultant or someone that handles the marketing of your practice, and working with them to update the website, go onto social media, create some different collateral on social media. Obviously, if you need some new brochures or pamphlets for your clinic, it's a great opportunity to kind of keep those updated as well. Whether it be the way you treat certain things, whether it can be kind of online ways to like the ways that you like to kind of your patient protocols in a way can be updated utilizing some of those things. Let's say you have a Swift wart machine or you have some new type of modality or medical equipment that you want to make a Facebook ad for. So I think I don't think the podiatrist or the clinic owner necessarily has to decide what to do with all 400 of those images that
Yeah.
come through, but working with someone you trust in a marketing capacity can be a great help to get those to where they need to be. And then once you have that kind of the feedback from your marketing, consultant that you work with, then you can kind of like decide, what are the kind of next steps that make the most sense. So, like I talked about previously, the kind of images you want to capture are, the treatment in action, right? So, shots of the podiatrist treating patients, highlighting those kind of key services that you want to provide, super important. You really want to have that doctor-patient interaction where there's some kind of authentic interactions between the staff and the patients, just so there's kind of like, everyone's seen images like that, but just making sure they're capturing those images. You want to
Yeah.
showcase your clinic and your facility. So obviously having people in the clinic, in the waiting area, in treatment rooms, obviously showing off the equipment. So if you have specific modalities you want to show, having image of that. And then like I talked about, what is the patient journey, right? How do they go from your parking lot into the waiting room, from the waiting room into your treatment room, and even on the way back out? And kind of those angles can really help tell a story for a patient. And then obviously photos of your team that look super professional wearing your clinic attire and, really kind of showcasing the staff and the team that you have all together.
No, I reckon they're all good ideas. The only other thing I'd add to that too is maybe organizing a couple of patients, not having the same patient that you're using for every single photo, because I've seen websites where I've looked at it and I've gone, my God, they've got warts. They've got this. They've got this. It's the same patient in every single photo. So, even though most people know a lot of these photos may be staged, but I think if you have, one person that you might use for the biomechanical stuff, then somebody else for the, Swift treatment, if that's what you're doing, and just mix it up a little bit so it's not the same person all the way through. I don't think it's a problem having you as the podiatrist all the way through. I think the business owner should be in as many photos as possible, but I think mix the patients up a little bit so it doesn't look like, everything was shot on the same day.
No, I totally agree. I think, somewhere between 3 to 5 either real patients or family members or mock patients that are a little bit different demographics, or maybe you want to just treat certain types of athletes, right? So maybe it is more of an athletic type, but just 3 to 5 different people, like you talked about,
Mm.
it'll help lead to more kind of, like you said, this game of, well, I saw the patient there, I saw the same patient here, I saw the same patient there, and it just gets a little, yeah, it's a little strange in some ways. Like
Yeah.
our minds work, we're visual creatures, right? So you may not be able to like put that into words the way it makes you feel, but it just feels a little bit off or a little strange in a way, and that the humans
Well,
we
I
can
got
recognize that.
one. There's one particular one that I know that I looked at all these photos and oh, there she is on the examination beds. Oh, she's also got this problem. Oh, she has that as well. Same person all the way through. And then when you rock up at the business, they were also the receptionist.
Yeah, I would advise against that.
And I sort of went, okay, so you couldn't get a real patient in, so you've used one of your staff to pretend to be a patient all the way through, and it felt a bit tacky.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I have not done that myself in the past 20 years ago. Before I knew better, we would have. I remember one of our well, actually, it was it was one of our receptionists on a treadmill.
Yeah.
So don't do that because it just doesn't look right.
Yeah. Well, we're about ready to wrap up, but I just want to leave like 3 kind of tips here as we kind of
Yes, go
close up
for
on
it.
this topic. And I would say, like you mentioned, Tyson, we want to make sure that you kind of have the legal compliance, not only with the patients that you're you're gonna use these images, so have them sign a waiver, but also you want to get ownership of those images from your photographer. Really, really important stuff. You don't want to have him take all these photos and then you didn't sign that over, and now you're trying to license them from him or something like that. You don't want that. You want to own those images.
Yeah,
Make sure that, the images are consistent, right? For some reason, if he has, the camera breaks in the middle of the shoot or something happens where the light, gets really messed up in some ways, you wanna make sure that they're doing the image processing so it looks like a coherent photo shoot. So things aren't, obviously you're gonna have maybe different rooms, in your practice that have different light, but I think it's really important to try to keep a consistent feel, because the more consistent the images are, the more kind of trustworthy they are, and the less kind of that kind of weird, you know, things feel off, right? There's no disjointed,
the vibe.
yeah, the vibe or the disjointed feelings. If things look very strange, right? If you do photo shoots on 2 different days, and you're like, you did something drastic to the office, it's just going to be kind of a strange situation. So, last but not least, I would say that once you have all these images, 400 images, consult a marketing specialist. Work with the person that built your website. Work with someone who does marketing for your practice, and to make sure that you get the most bang out of the buck. Like I said, it's really not that expensive of an endeavor. These are images you're going to use for 5 to 7 years. Like I said, I think it's important you refresh those, but you want to make sure that you get the most you can from these images, because they're a huge way of really showcasing what you do, how you do it, who you treat, and that you are that local expert in a way that words can't do, right? You can't write like a 3-page bio about yourself about how great you are and expect people to read that. They're not going to. But if they see you
Mm.
treating your ideal patient with these images on your website, on your social, in Facebook ads, it's going to lead a level and really kind of grow trust and respect, not only from potential patients, but also from other healthcare providers. So it's definitely worth the investment in getting a professional photographer to help you with these things, but then also working with a marketing specialist to make sure that you are projecting and showing that professional image that you are the local expert in your community. So definitely, if you have questions about, how to get started, or you want these written out better, obviously we'll have a transcript of this episode. You can rewind and listen to it both on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. But that's pretty much it for me today.
Yeah, and if anybody's looking at getting a website done or wants to talk about it, they talk to you.
Yep.
You're doing websites.
Yep, I'm doing websites. I'm doing, different types of paid advertising, blog posts, things like that. And if they need some coaching, they need to kind of understand the kind of the psychology behind why some of the stuff that I do is important. They can talk to Tyson. I'm sure you're still taking on clients.
Yeah. No, when I say people like this time of the year, especially the new year, this is a new start. If you've been thinking about coaching and you're going, oh, I should go for one of these big coaching companies where I'll get handed off to an employee after the initial call, or you want to work with someone just one-on-one like myself, yeah, give me a call, just reach out. So I think we've done on this subject. It's great. The whole photo thing, I think, is such an important part of everybody's business, and just getting your partner to do a few shots of you around the clinic just doesn't cut it anymore. You need to get a professional in, get professional photos, and I tell you, it'll make a massive difference.
I couldn't put it any better.
Okay, Jim, I look forward to seeing you next week.
Sounds great, Tyson.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.